Hi, so today I'm hopefully going to be fitting my new fuel pump in the tank. I have a slight issue where it'll start to skip like it's trying to start and then it runs out of fuel pressure. I think because the only thing I've not replaced in this fuel system is the fuel pump and I can't hear it whining when it's cranking, that's probably the issue. So what I've done is I've disconnected it on this side so it's isolated. And I'm going to hopefully be able to dip my hand in and do everything without having to take the fuel tank off the bike, because that would just be a pain in the ass. I went on eBay and I found what I believe is the correct fuel pump. Now I understand it comes in two different sizes, and I got the 52mm, which comes with all the fittings. So I am very much hoping this should be a very simple job. Of course, the minute I say that, it's going to be painful and complicated. So what I'm going to do is I'll probably bring you round so you can see hopefully what I'm doing in the tank to get everything out. It shouldn't be too complicated, I think, but we'll find out. So what I see from here is there is a clip on either side that I should be able to disconnect and pull that whole ring out. I don't think I need to slacken anything off, so I'll give that a go. When I say I'm a bit of an idiot, we'll see why in a second. I think this somehow comes off, but anyway, first things first, let's get this hose off. Because I think what I've done is when I routed that hose from when I did the fuel filter, I did that badly. Now, let's take off this bucket and see what we got underneath. Two connectors. Look to be bloody tiny. Let's see what they are. And 8. Right, at least we know there's 7 and 8. Now that is everything out. From my understanding, I'm just going to prop this here for the time being. I have this as a replacement, so this section here has to come off to go around here. So I've got to have a see how that goes. I'm wondering if it's a push fit or not. So the first job is to try and get this off. I think I might do that on the ground so I'm not spilling fuel everywhere. Let's see how this comes off. This is obviously the clip to clip it out of its seat, and it's nicely labelled on the pump. So do I unclip these rubbers? And then it just seemingly slides off. That was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Now, did I remember which way around it went? It was that way around, wasn't it? So now, it just slides on. That was very simple. And again, positive and negative. These poles here are different sizes, which is quite nice. So I shouldn't screw that up, and then all I've got to remember to do is take that off so I can connect up my hose. So let's get that reconnected. I do have new fittings, which is nice. It actually comes with new crimping rim terminals, which I don't think I'm going to use. And hopefully reuse the other ones. Same as the rubber boots. I just might swap over the bolts, if I can get to everything. Right. This one is larger, and this one is smaller. These connectors actually look really quite clean, so I'm not too fussed. Okay, let me dry off my hands and see if that's fixed my problem, because that's in. Right, let's reconnect up. And here. Yeah, I think that's it. Turn the key. Still hear no fuel pump. Alright, maybe it wasn't the fuel pump, maybe it was something else. This is not great. Okay, so this looks like it wasn't my fuel pump that was the issue. Looks like it was something else. Which means I've done this for nothing. You can see just in there I've got the fuel pump in place and locked in. I also have the fuel pump wiring connected up. And my question now is, why am I not getting any joy? That fuel pump should be making noise. So you can hear it kicks when it tries to start. So I know it makes me think it's the fuel pump or the fuel pump wiring. So it looks like I've replaced the fuel pump for no reason. I'm going to have to looks like I've replaced the fuel pump for no reason. Nothing was changed. Makes me think it's got to be perhaps this wiring here. So I'm going to see which wires I can push power to. See if I can make the fuel pump whine. But yeah, that looks to be my issue. I'm assuming it's this connection. I wonder if it's the under tank. So, because the under tank wiring is a bit shocking. See, you can't just, no fuel pump sounds at all. What I think I'll do is I'll end it there. That's obviously how you fit the fuel pump. It's not particularly complicated. But it doesn't appear to be my problem. This fuel pump itself looks, I mean, visually looks all right. And it seems that this wasn't my issue. So my question then is, can I hotwire the fuel pump? If I can hotwire the fuel pump, then I can start working backwards. Yeah, I think so. Let me find out. Right, so you join me in a world of discovery, and what I have discovered is, I think, the positive here, which is this bottom left pin, just where my thumbnail is, the connection isn't solid to here, because I believe when I crank on here, this pin there, just there, is getting a 12 volts pump, 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 which I think is the signal for the fuel pump to go. So it all looks to be working up to here, but it's here that I'm not getting connection. I've got 12 volts on that bottom right. Top left, I have a connection there which varies with the fuel level sender. There goes nowhere, or at least I've not found anywhere, so I think that's power to something. But that bottom left there is not receiving anything, which makes me think I'm going to have to take the fuel sender out to have a look and see what's going on. So that's a little update. I'll come back to you in a bit. Okay, things have escalated. As you can see, the tank is off the bike, the fuel sender's out of the bike. I've had to drain the fuel, spilt a little on the floor, but it's evaporated. To take off the fuel sender, you have to lift this flap, 4 screws straight out, and you have to make sure your fuel pump is disconnected. Now I'm going to try tracing these wires back to see if they're all connected up correctly. I'll check back in a bit. So what I've been doing is I've been testing the conductivity between this side here and this side here, as well as that side to the end. All the conductivity from there to there is solid. I can't make any signals between here or that side and along here. So what I think is there's probably a break in this cable or in there. I can't figure out how this comes off. I think this is a sealed unit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to splice the outer sheath here very carefully and see what I can find if there's anything along there. So I've now stripped back everything just to see if there's any dodgy connections. Everything looks solid. I think what's just happened is the connection that goes through the unit there underneath that wax, which I tried to pick back a bit of, is just gone, because every other part from here onwards, the actual wire itself all looks good. I've gone straight to the end of the socket there, that looks good. So I think it's just that white section there. Somewhere in there a connection has come loose, because the solder looks decent on the back here. You can see it just there. So I don't think that's worth redoing. So let me see if I can get you close up there. That solder point joint looks okay. It still looks to be connected to the bottom. I think at this point I'm slightly concerned. It's a new fuel sender unit, which is hundreds of pounds. So I'm going to see what other alternatives there are for getting power to the fuel pump. So knowing that's my issue really, the fuel level sender hasn't got power going through it, and it looks to be the plate section there. I don't know the best way of turning around and taking another hole through that, so I'm going to have to do some research to see what's best to do, because it's 225 quid for a replacement. I'll have a look on eBay, see if I can find something cheaper, but realistically that's a problem. Not sure if you can drill straight through. I'm assuming I could. If it wasn't for the fact that earth is already going through that socket, I'd just put a bolt through, seal up the bolt, and then run power through it. But alas, I can't do that. So I'd have to put an isolated bolt through, which requires a bit more thought. In other words, I just don't know. So I'm going to have a bit of a Google, see what I can figure out, and go from there. In the meantime, that means the bike has to go back together. As you can see, it's in pieces. And once I get the bike back together, it'll sit there till I figure out what I'm going to do. I am finally done with getting this bike up and running. It turned out it wasn't the fuel pump that needed replacing on this. I have since connected power to the old fuel pump and it's pumping. The new fuel pump, obviously, when I fitted it, didn't work, and that is because my fuel sender assembly was broken. So I had good connection between the fuel pump wires and this block here. However, I didn't have good connection between this block here and this end of the connection on the cable here. I stripped down this cable so I could actually see if there was any kind of kinks or breaks in it. Everything looked fine. So I think the problem is somewhere in this soldered joins between either side of the plate. Now I had a pick off, couldn't see any problems. I didn't find a good way of actually repairing this and say everything else seems to work. It was just the positive for the fuel pump. But what I did find is Motorworks in the UK, they provide a brand new assembly aftermarket for £220. Now that's a lot of money, but I thought I could clutch this and risk things going on fire, or I can buy the whole assembly. So I bought the whole assembly. I sold the Versys last week, which provided enough spare funds to do that. So I bought the whole assembly, fitted it up. It's the 4 screws on the bottom. It connects straight up. With the Motorworks part, you also get the ring included, so you don't have to buy that separately. But the whole assembly goes through. It's got a nice new connector, new wiring. It is plug and play, and it took seconds to get back in. And now the bike is up and running. which is fantastic. I did, however, take it for a test ride and noticed that when I turn the handlebars left, revs pick up. When I turn the handlebars right, the revs go down, and that actually stalls, where I think I've adjusted the throttle tension settings incorrectly, or I've routed the cable incorrectly, so I've got to work that out before I take it for an MOT. But other than that, the bike is now running, riding and stopping, provided you don't want to turn left with any form of control. So that's great. So what I'll do later is I'll get back on sorting out and figuring out where that throttle position routing is supposed to be, and then I can book it in for an MOT. So that's it for this. This turned into a bit of an epic, thinking it was going to be a simple fuel pump replacement, and ended up being the fuel sender assembly, which is mildly annoying. I'm going to keep this one just in case there is a good way of replacing this junction point here. I just don't know how. So I'll do some research, and maybe there is something that can be done, because the actual fuel level sensor works. It is just this one connection here. So that's it for this. If you do have a problem, I think it's unlikely to be this connection. If you can test from there to there and you've got power, it's more likely to be a fuel pump. And considering my fuel tank was so grimy inside, I made the assumption and I was wrong. But there we go, we live and learn. All right, thanks very much, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Cheers.